And away we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday. How do you do? Upstate South Carolina. Great to be with you once again here on the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Appreciate your time. As always, thank you guys so much for spending each and every day with us. The great one, Lonzo, on a well-earned vacation, which means we are joined this morning once again and all week long. Our boy Brandon is in the house. What's up, big dog?
What's good, Rob?
How we doing?
How are we doing with you? It's some good news from your coming from what I saw in the parking lot there.
Yeah, got the new rig yesterday.
How's she riding?
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Like a dream, huh?
Yep. Decided to be an adult for the first time in my life and actually buy a new car. In days gone by, I had either bought cars in cash or whatever, and then driven them until either the wheels fell off or were knocked off, which is what happened to my poor Jeep. My poor Jeep, best car ever. But decided yesterday to get myself a new rig. Went with the brand new ride, and it's spectacular, man. I'm not looking forward to car payments for the first time ever and in my life. But, sacrifices must be made. I got the rig I've been looking for, the one I've wanted for a while. Absolutely love it. So we're in good shape, man. We're in good shape. We have got, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of stuff to get to, a lot of stuff to talk about on the radio broadcast today. I hope you'll be a part of it. 844-326-3663. That's the phone number to get on the air today. 844-326-3663. Text us on the text line at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we'll read them on the air. You can tweet me at The Rob Brown Show. You can tweet everybody up in this hizzy at The Fan Upstate on Twitter, at The Fan Upstate. We have got no shortage of things to get to on the radio broadcast today. The biggest concern that is had about a 12-team college football playoff bracket, according to Greg Sankey and others, has nothing to do with schools, nothing to do with coaches, nothing to do with players. It has everything to do, well, frankly, with you and me. I'm going to tell you about that coming up later on in the radio broadcast. We have got to start getting ourselves set up for the next game of the NBA Finals. It is tomorrow night, Denver and Miami. And we're not necessarily going to break down the X's and the O's of Game 3 yet, but there are a couple of very interesting numbers I want to get to. Like, for instance, how about the fact that the Denver Nuggets are 0-3 in these postseason when Nikola Jokic scores 40 or more points? Right, that's exactly the reaction that I had. If Nikola Jokic drops 40, the Nuggets lose. That has been the rule of these playoffs so far. So, what can the Nuggets do to change that? I have one answer, and I'll give it to you later on in the radio broadcast. We are going to talk quite a bit about the Carolina Panthers today. A lot of rumors swirling around the silver and blue about potential new names on the roster, about potential old names that will no longer be on the roster. We are going to be talking a lot of cat football later on in the radio broadcast. And obviously, if you did not hear yesterday, because you decided that you had something better to do than watch college baseball super regionals come to their conclusion, you didn't. That's not true. That's not true. There actually was something else happening yesterday, and I want to get into it as well later on. The Women's College World Series, the softball national championship, a tournament, was taking place as well. And if you've not been watching Oklahoma softball, I feel bad for you, son. As Jay-Z once said, I feel bad for you because this team has built something that I think it's fair to say is a short-term dynasty. What are they at? 59 consecutive wins at this point?
53.
53? Some ridiculous-ass number like that. 53 consecutive wins, which culminated in a semifinal win yesterday. And now we have an incredible matchup in Game 1 tomorrow night as they take on Florida State University, a rematch of the 2021 Women's College World Series, which was one of the best competitive sporting events I've ever watched. That series was incredible. This series will be incredible. Oklahoma can hit everything. You can shoot the softball out of a freaking artillery rifle, and it feels like Oklahoma can put it on play. On the flip side, Sandercock from Florida State, their ace, is unbelievable to softball. She's unbelievable. She can do things with a softball that defy physics, and I don't understand it. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the radio broadcast as well. It is going to be a busy day, but let's open with this. As bummed as it makes me, as much as I don't like it, Stanley Cup's over, kids. Stanley Cup is over. The Stanley Cup ended last night with about 6 minutes left to play in the second period, when Eichel was pushing the puck up the center line, had his head down, and Matthew Tkachuk murdered him at center ice. It turned into a bit of a brouhaha. It was quite a bit of a scramble. It got a little out of control, and it became very evident to me Florida has lost its way. This is a team that had relied on successfully playing bully ball hockey through these entire Stanley Cups. They weren't going to beat you by being an incredible hockey team. They were going to beat you by beating you. They weren't going to beat you by executing power plays, although they did. They weren't going to beat you by having a lot of tic-tac-toe performances to catch goalkeepers asleep. They were going to beat you by making sure that at the end of every game, you were black and blue all over. That's what they did to Carolina in the semis. Carolina had no idea how to respond because that's not the style of ball that the Carolina Hurricanes play. But it is what Florida does, and it worked. Vegas knew that. Vegas did not come in intimidated. Vegas did not come in afraid. Vegas did not come in shying away from contact, from physicality. Vegas came in and said, no, you can hit us all you want, but you're going to hit the guy that doesn't have the puck. We're going to move the puck. We're going to transition on you. We're going to catch you out of spot. Your back line is going to face multiple odds on numbers. There's going to be a lot of options for us offensively. And yeah, we're going to get jacked a few times, but you're never going to know where the puck's coming from, where it's going. And it happened again last night. A 7-2 performance in a game that frankly wasn't that close. That game was UGLY, and the Cats ain't had no alibi. It was ugly. Yeah, it was ugly. I don't know how much of that game you watched last night, Brandon, but after Tkachuk,
I didn't watch him much. After I saw that hit happen,
to.
I was like, this game is done. Florida's done. I really think Vegas, if Florida somehow gets that one win, that's all they're going to get. It's going to be 5. But I think Vegas sweeps it. I really do.
I mean, I could see Florida stealing one at home, but I think the next time these two teams square off in the desert, Stanley Cup's going to be up for grabs for the Golden Knights. Florida might get one. Florida might ride the emotional high of getting back in front of their crowd, which has been a surprisingly good crowd in an otherwise destitute hockey area. It's been a surprisingly good crowd for Florida through this postseason, which is not a shock. Any team that makes it into the postseason sees their support skyrocket. That's just how it gets played. People turn up and turn out for winners. So they might ride an emotional high to like a Game 3 win. But what about the last 2 games? What about last night's game gave you any indication at all that the Panthers have anything for the Knights? They don't. Matthew Tkachuk has seen his game go from the side of a billboard to the side of a milk carton in the first 2 games of these finals. Sergei Bobrovsky, who has been putting on a goaltending masterclass through these playoffs in the last 2 games, looks like he's out of his depth. He just looks like he has lost the thread. He's not the same guy right now. They made a goaltender switch, late second period last night? I think Vegas went up 4 and they made the call, or 4-1 and they made the call, which was the right call. Again, I had been saying going into these finals that if Florida's going to win this final, it's going to be because Sergei Bobrovsky is a machine. The dude has been putting together a highlight reel that should have been shown to mighty might hockey players around the country. This is how you mine net. And then that just blew up. Vegas's front line is attacking tactically and in numbers, but more importantly, they're leaving their options open. When they get into the attacking third, they are not just trying to blitz Bob and beat him one-on-one. They are sending in 2-1. They are not afraid of the Florida counter. They are putting extra numbers up front. And on top of that, and I'm speaking directly to the Hurricanes of Carolina because I know they're listening right now. If you don't shoot it directly into the center of his shoulder pads, you have a chance to score. Florida has been working the glove-high shelf, and it's been working every time. Like, I want to give Bobrovsky all the credit for what he has been accomplishing in this postseason. But after the last 2 games, I'm like, yo, is Bob that good? Or did everybody else just fail miserably? Because the Golden Knights have been working shelf-high glove side for the majority of the game. And Bob was like, I don't know if he wasn't seeing the puck. I don't know if Vegas is just doing the best screen jobs that we've seen in the Stanley Cup postseason. I don't know exactly what is driving it. But Sergei Bobrovsky is just not seeing the puck. And if Bob goes away, it puts it puts Florida on the back foot. It forces Florida to start having to play from behind, and it is going really poorly. Really poorly. So we'll head back to Sunrise in a couple of nights. The Vegas Knights up a pair of games in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I'm 0% shocked by that. Not at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a break. We have got a lot to get into on the radio broadcast today. We got to talk Super Regionals. We got to talk Carolina Panthers. We got to talk about the biggest concern that some people have about the 12-team playoff number. We're going to talk about that. And stick with me here. The Charlotte Hornets. A little bit of breaking news about their number 2 draft pick. I'll tell you what that is later in the show as well. Busy day. 844-326-3663. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I got a live read right here. Stay right here. I'll be right back. Nick, what's up, big dog? Good to see you. Skrilla, happy Liberty game day. See you at the stadium tonight.
Buddy Nick is watching from Toronto. Nick, what's up, big guy?
I want to go to Toronto. I've heard it's a really cool place.
Expensive as all get out, but I'm gonna put another 30-second in, okay?
Yep.
Check out their collection today at SmithJames.com. Stop by their stores at 222 Freight Street in Greer or at their new location on Verde Boulevard in Greenville. Mark Ryan tells it like it is. The comment Danny Cannell made earlier today, rooting for your conferences is for losers. It's like the South Carolina, the Kentuckies, like it's all the teams that have no success, lose their conferences.
And how good was Danny Cannell in the NFL?
Danny Cannell was a hell of a college quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Danny Cannell's a hot take artist. Always has been.
Didn't he have like some severe illness?
Cannell? Did he? I don't remember. Still a hot take artist.
There was some, I remember he had to retire because he just had some health problem happen.
Let's see. No, he just got cut.
And insured tax attorney who evaluates your company at my expense to accurately determine eligibility. Innovation Refunds has hundreds of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot and Google, and your business might be entitled to receive up to $26,000 per employee. Businesses of all types can qualify, including medical, professional, construction, even nonprofits. Please don't miss out on this. Even your doctor would tell you to get an expert second opinion, and we do a lot of work for doctors. Download the Innovation Refunds app now or go to getrefunds.com to potentially get a payroll tax refund of $26,000 per employee. Getrefunds.com. Getrefunds.com.
Sponsored by Great Southern Homes.
Today is the day to visit a Great Southern Homes community right here in the upstate. Our designer decorated model homes are open daily. Live green, live smart with our energy efficient smart home plans. We have new listings daily. GreatSouthernHomes.com.
All right, we do have a little breaking news for the Clemson Tigers football team. As 2024 5-star linebacker Sammy Brown has committed to the Clemson Tigers. He is a young man with about as good of a recruiting profile as you can ask for. I am not this is going to shock some of you. I am not a big recruiting guy. I don't really pay attention to it's the lifeblood of college football. It's the most important thing a coach can do, yada, yada, yada. I got all that. I just get very tired of being told that this guy's the savior, this guy's the next big thing, and it doesn't work out, versus a lot of guys who are, 3-star players who turn out to be All-Americans. But this pickup seems to be a big deal. This kid goes 6'2", 230. First off, out of Jefferson, Georgia, this cat has potentially the most glorious mullet I've ever seen in my life. It's unbelievable. It's perfect, dude. It is.
We should post a picture
perfect.
of that.
Yeah, I might have to screen grab one here. I'm not gonna lie. It is an exceptional mullet, man. Exceptional mullet. This is a dude that is sitting on a composite 98 rating from 24/7. From the composite, he is at a 99.28 in his recruiting profile. Kid is stellar. He had offers from Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Colorado, Florida, Florida State, Georgia Tech. I mean, LSU, Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, South Carolina, A&M, USC, Wisconsin, Virginia. This guy had
a lot.
If you can name a school, he had an offer.
I think he was like the number one overall prospect of all linebackers in the ESPN top 150, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Number 1 overall linebacker prospect. He was the number 5 overall prospect amongst all college recruits coming out. I spent a little bit of time watching this kid's highlights earlier. First off, my dude deadlifts about 2,000 pounds. All right. Let's see. I'm real bad at math. But I'm watching the kid hit a squat rack with 545-pound plates on each side. All right. Here, I'll do the math for you because I'm such a nice guy. Let's go 45.
It's 400
times 2, or excuse me, 45 times 5 times 2 plus 90, 540.
540. Yeah, 540.
540, my dude is squatting. So I'm watching him play right now. I watched some highlights earlier this morning. I'm looking at a new reel right now. This kid's impressive. Really, really good side-to-side speed and just sheds blocks like they're nothing. I'm watching a clip from one of his last games showing off the lateral speed. He overruns a running back to the spot. Overruns on a toss sweep, right? Now, this is one of the reasons that I don't go. Let me rephrase that. This is one of the reasons that I don't always trust the star ratings. One of the reasons that I don't always trust profiles is because I don't know what the hell competition this kid's playing. All right? I just don't. I grew up in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. We had a couple of players down there. And then those schools would routinely go over and play schools from Pensacola, Florida, a much bigger city. And guess what would happen? We'd get our asses kicked because they had a lot more athletes in a lot more positions, right? So I don't know what the competition level looks like in these videos that I'm watching out of Sammy Brown. Here's what I do know. What I do know is I'm looking at this kid do everything as a linebacker. I watched probably 20 minutes, 22 minutes of tape earlier this morning before we came on the air. I'm still watching some highlights here. One Clemson fan, sorry, scratch that. Even higher compliment. One Oklahoma fan just labeled this as, quote, top 5 biggest recruiting win in Dabo's time as head coach, in my opinion. And then it broke down into a debate of what are the biggest recruiting wins for Dabo's time at Clemson. Guys are mentioning C.J. Spiller on this list. Guys are mentioning Trevor Lawrence on this list. Look, we're going to need a year to figure out who and what Sammy Brown is. Here's what I can see. The dude goes 6'2", 230. So he's thick with an extra C on the end. With a sub-11 100-meter dash. Sub-11. Sub-11. Y'all, Olympians run like a 10 or like a 9.4, 9.5. Olympians. Guys who all they do is train to run the 100-meter dash at top speed. Run like a 9.4. This cat's putting it down in like a 10.5. That's insane for a high school kid at 6'2", 230. He has a 10.7 100-meter dash. He hang cleans 405. He long jumps 23 feet 3 inches. Won back-to-back state titles in the 285 wrestling weight class. Now, let me throw this at you. The 285 weight class is like it. Like that's it. This dude is 230, and he's overpowering guys in the 285 class. That's insane. That's not, it should be against the law to be that athletic as a high school football player. You just shouldn't be able to do it. The kid's unbelievable. So he's a class of 2024 recruit. All right, he'll be in next year. I don't fall over recruits. I just don't. I don't fall over them. I don't get tripped up and go, this is that guy. This is that guy. This is the guy that turns it around. I compare this to the NFL draft. And here's what I mean by that. Every year, I get asked the question, Rob, who's your lock, right? Who's the guy? Who's the guy in this class that is a can't miss player? And the answer is very rarely do I have one, right? For instance, the last can't miss quarterback that I threw out was Lamar Jackson. That's the last guy I looked at and went, that guy's a can't miss prospect. That guy has every tool. That guy does everything. The last can't miss prospect at quarterback was Lamar. This dude feels like a can't miss recruit, right? This dude feels.
But the overpower 285 class at only 230? That's incredible. That is unheard. I agree with you. That should be illegal for someone that small to be that good and athletic. Clemson I think they hit a real home run with this player. I really do. And, Dabo, known for getting those 4- and 5-star recruits. I mean, he got one of my best friends from Atlanta, Jamal Anderson, Mr. Dirty Bird himself. His son, a 4-star linebacker out of Georgia, got another commit like there too. And Jamal is a really good player as well. So, I mean, Dabo has the ability to get these 4- and 5-star recruits, but I'm just amazed that, what was it yesterday? Georgia announced without even batting an eye, we didn't get them. And it's like they didn't really care. I'm like, you guys just lost out on one of, if not the best linebacker in the entire recruiting class.
Yeah, look, first off, yes, that is correct. You can't, what's the old expression? There's no use crying over spilt bourbon, I think is how it goes. You can't freak out. Oh, our program's over. Like, it is what it is. But if you are a Clemson fan, you're dancing on this one, right? You're dancing on this one. Dude has won back-to-back state natties in the 285 class. Just so you know, according to the NCAA, the average in 2022 season, the average college football player size at offensive lineman is about 297. All right. So this dude is, and again, Lonzo will tell you, Lonzo's an old amateur wrestler. Wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, amateur wrestling, is about two things: leverage and balance, right? Power, but leverage and balance. It is about understanding how to gain leverage, utilize leverage. It's about learning how to manipulate another dude's body based on that leverage. And it's about balance in not giving away your center of gravity, not allowing him to manipulate your center of gravity and get you moved around. If you are a back-to-back state natty wrestler at that level, getting guys that are 297 out of position when they are not wrestlers, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. They're 300 pounds. But if you can do it at 285, you can do it at 297. All right. It's just how it's going to work.
Those linemen better watch out. That's all I got to say.
This kid sheds blocks. This kid can outrun running backs to the spot. Like I said, I've been watching video for a cumulative half an hour this morning. This kid outruns running backs to the spot. Like, I watched a compilation this AM of effectively, first thing I look for in a linebacker's lateral speed, side-to-side speed, right? I want a guy who can get up to the line, shed a block, get through, create havoc in the backfield, whatever. But I want to see lateral speed because I need to make sure that you can scrape off the top of a block, get into a foot race with the running back, and hold him up long enough for the cavalry of the defensive backfield to arrive. This kid doesn't have lateral speed. He is lateral speed. With, again, just in case you weren't paying attention, maybe the best mullet I have ever seen. maybe the best mullet I have. I mean, I am talking like 1982, driving a Trans Am, listening to Def Leppard with cut-off denim shorts caliber mullet. It's unbelievable. A Georgia fan just said in a chat I'm monitoring, GG Clemson, you'll love this kid. Yeah, I see that. I see that. Love this guy. That's a huge pickup for Clemson. Big win for the Tigers. For a team that has, I think, been underappreciated for how stacked their front seven has been the last couple of years, this is the addition. This could be an addition of a kid that we're looking at in 3 years and going, that's a first-round prospect. He's got that much talent, that much speed. All right. Let's see. Joey B checked in. He said Sammy grew up a Clemson fan. I think Georgia thought him going to Clemson was inevitable. Yeah, they still threw in the lot. Why wouldn't you? You're back-to-back reigning, defending, undisputed national champions, right? Like if this kid is trophy hunting, Georgia's got to play. They got beat by Dabo. Nick N says, ugh, my ears, ... 3130. Yeah, that's never going anywhere.
Trey Davis said Clemson must have promised Sammy Brown an NIL deal with Soul Glow.
Soul Glow.
Yeah.
Soul Glow. Joey said Jefferson is a 5A school, so I don't think he's playing scrubs. No, I don't think he does either. Spur Daddy, check it in. What's up, Spur Daddy? He said Clemson did get themselves a baller with Sammy Brown. That's why Carolina is getting these O-linemen like Pringle and Thompson. These Palmetto Bowl matchups are going to be awesome with all this talent for both. I agree. I absolutely think, and the best part about this is there's still talent on the outside. It's going to be trench warfare, dudes. Just physical football at the line, and I am all in for it. All right, good pickup for the Tigers. Well done, Clemson bros. That's a big snag. Big snag. Take a break. We'll come back after this. I'm Rob Brown. My man Brandon on the ones and twos today. If you want to be a part of the show, 844-326-3663. The text line, 71307. Start that text with FAN. We'll read them on the air. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show. We're back after this on the Fan Upstate.
My bad, Spur Daddy. I didn't realize I was going to send so many, but thanks for watching this morning, man.
I just really want Clemson v. South Carolina to be the greatest rivalry in college football.
It's going to be really good to watch the Palmetto Bowl matchups now. That, you know, like T.O. said, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a good show.
Marlins beat the Royals 9-6. The Pirates over Oakland 5-4. The Astros pounded the Blue Jays 11-4. The Red Sox Brewers 2-0. Padres 5-0 over the Cubs. The Rangers defy the Cards 4-3. Panthers OTAs continue this week. They'll wrap up on Thursday and get set for mandatory minicamp June 13th to the 15th. The Fan Upstate is your home for Herman Paladin sports all year long. Download the Odyssey app and search
Just run a little bit. I hear you, brother.
I'm Chuck Sanders with the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
From the Ingles Market Studio.
What's the gig today, Spur Daddy? What are we working on? Anything good?
Filled with wonderful people who make living here great. At Home Trust Bank, we're proud of that. And that's why we focus on helping homeowners prepare for what's next. Our local mortgage bankers have the experience you need and exceptional personal service you'll appreciate. Home Trust Bank is ready to help make a house your home. When it's time to buy, visit your local Home Trust branch or go to htb.com/.
Whatever they're talking about next door
Business brings pressure.
generated a lot of chatter about Trump and DeSantis.
Every morning.
Yeah. I wish they had
That's why.
green one.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Me too. I am working on that.
Said act across the street, stamping parts.
Across the street from the studio, Spare Daddy. Like you're over here in Garlington. You're over in our neck of the woods. Gotta keep the boomers riled up. Oh, man. No comment? Can I just go with no comment, Joey B?
Yeah, working at the big plant across.
Nice.
So what are you gonna name your car?
I don't know yet, man. I've been thinking about it all night.
You know, because it's bad luck not to name your baby.
Yeah, I know. I gotta pick one. I don't want to get stuck with the wrong one.
My car's name is Dano. From Hawaii 5-0.
I like it.
When I lived in Georgia, my tag was Bookham Dano. So I was stuck with the name Dano.
Exactly what it sounds like. An official offer to buy or trade your car. Just enter your VIN or license plate. Answer a few questions about your car's history and what kind of condition it's in. In minutes, you'll receive an offer to sell or trade your car, and you can be sure it's fair. For all of the hits, BB.com.
Everything that you've ever seen with Marine delivered on it, I have my finger on the pulse of what it is. Out of when I've seen every article of clothing, I've spent hours and hours seeing inspirations. I've seen clothes that I love and fabrics, and I'm involved in every single garment that you see. It's important to me that it is an extension of my music, and it's an extension of who I am. I always wanted to stay as honest as my music.
Nick said, I'm ready to hear about the real estate of South Carolina.
You're all set with your new heavy water heater.
We're gonna be talking a little super regionals coming up.
Oh, no need to say that, man. You'll always love Navient's high efficiency that will save you money on gas bills compared to other water.
15
I
seconds.
love how I have more space with its wall-hanging design. Please let me say
Oh, sorry, miss. I know you appreciate it, but I can't let you say it.
why not?
Because with Navient, it's a thankless job.
How long you been waiting to use that?
You'd be surprised. Find an Navient installer near you at tanklessmadesimple.com.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob and Brandon with you. The great one out on vacation this week. He shall make his triumphant return next week. I will be out on Friday. Carlos with a K will be filling in for me. Your boy is, what's the word? Selfish. My man, Chris Lewis, hooked it up. So on Friday, instead of working, Rob's going to be a couple of bourbon and gingers deep at the BMW Pro-Am at Thornblade, because I decided that I would rather watch good golfers golf and bad golfers try than work. And no, I don't feel bad about it at all. Not even a little. It's going to be an incredible day. Can't wait. Can't wait. So I'll be out on Friday, and Carlos with a K will be filling in, which we very much appreciate. But we got some time left between here and there, so let's get to some stuff, shall we? Let's go with this. It's going to be really interesting. Representatives from the Southeastern Conference, representatives from the University of South Carolina will be heading to Washington, D.C. They plan on spending some time chatting with legislators about laying down some guardrails. That's the word everybody loves to use about this stuff. And I'm not mad about it. I've used it too. But laying down some guardrails in regards to NIL, laying down some guardrails to try to streamline everything. Ray Tanner told the state newspaper at SEC spring meetings at the end of last week, quote, I'm a proponent of NIL. If your son or daughter is not an athlete, they have an opportunity to monetize off their names and likeness. Why should we prohibit an athlete from doing the same thing? But we all know that there are certain parts of NIL that are not great right now. And I want to get to that statement. I'll finish up the quote. Tanner said, quote, there's a lot to be decided. Will Congress eventually put some guardrails in place with NIL? We'll see. They've got a lot on their plate. They're probably not sitting around just waiting for us to roll in there next week, but we're coming. We're going to be there, end quote. Shane Beamer said, quote, nobody's trying to take away name, image, and likeness. Nobody's trying to take away the transfer portal, but I think everybody's in agreement. And when I say everybody, leadership within college athletics, that there just needs to be more guardrails, if you will, and a little bit more regulation than what there is right now, potentially, end quote. I think I've kind of narrowed down what my biggest frustration is with all of this. I think I've kind of narrowed it down to my frustration is we hear about this endlessly. We need guardrails. We need this. We need uniformitarianism. We need all these different things. And I am not saying that that is wrong. But I haven't heard a single idea yet. I have not heard specifically what is wrong, and I have not heard anything even close to a proposed solution to what is wrong, right? So the first thing you have to do is identify the problem. And we hear quotes like we just heard from Ray Tanner in college athletics all the time. Oh, I don't want to take NIL away. But we all agree that there's some stuff that's wrong, right? Yet and again, maybe I've just missed it. If you have anything that contradicts this, please send it to me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. I have heard over and over and over. I'm not trying to take away NIL. We are not trying to take away NIL. We just want guidelines. We want guardrails. We want protections. And again, I'm not against that. I'm not saying that's bad. In fact, I think it's probably good. Just like with everything else, people will always either act irresponsibly, not everybody, but people will always act irresponsibly. And people will always flex within the established in order to take advantage of other people. Do I think that there are some shady sons of guns out there that as soon as they hear that big name college football player just signed $1 million NIL deal with the Acme Corp, that they wouldn't be driving to that campus trying to figure out how to get their grubby little fingers in that dude's cash? Yes, of course that is the case. And I am fine with fixing that. The problem you're bumping into, right? Like I've been asked a couple of times, like, why isn't anything being done? Why isn't the NCAA doing anything? Why isn't Congress doing anything? And my answer is because I don't think anybody has identified the problem outside of creating boogeymen. That's what I said about Eli Drinkwitz last week, right? When we played that audio from Eli. My problem wasn't Eli's concern about kids being taken advantage of. That's not my problem. Yes, I'm good with that. My problem is how many boogeymen have to be created And people use those boogeymen not to drive to a common ground point, but to steer the conversation in the direction that they want it to go in. And I think that's my problem here. Again, do I have an issue with Ray and Shane and Dawn Staley's going too? Why wouldn't she? She's the most visible college basketball coach maybe in the game, but certainly on the women's side. Do I have a problem with them going to Congress, going, yo, we just, and this is true, we just have to have federal guidelines now. They just have, if you're going to put down guardrails, they will have to come from the federal level. You have gone too far down allowing every state to do their own thing. You have gone too far to come back from that, right? The only way that you fix any of the alleged problems is federal legislation. It's the House, it's the Senate going, all right, here's how this needs to work to protect everybody. And you hope they do it in a way that is not going to take money out of the hands of the boosters and therefore the kids and put it into their own hands. But hey, it's politicians, baby. But here's the thing. I think it is fine. And this goes against a very common philosophy I've realized over the years. I think it is fine to point out a problem without offering a solution, right? The metaphor I've always leaned on is, and this is not true, I make a mean steak, but in my metaphor, because I need it to work here, in my metaphor, I don't know how to cook a steak. Again, not true. I cook a banging ass T-bone. I don't know how to make a steak. And if I go to the steakhouse and I order a steak and they bring out the steak that I have asked for medium rare, because anything over medium rare is burnt, and they bring me out a charred, well-done steak, I am going to go, this steak is bad and wrong. I don't need to know how to cook a steak to know that this steak is wrong, right? There was a comedian, I can't remember who it was, but he had a great line about this. He said, if I'm walking down the road and I see a helicopter stuck in a tree, I don't need to know how to fly a helicopter to know that that's not it. That's not how you do that. That's wrong, right? But there's a difference between I can see the problem even if I don't have a solution. Because effectively what you're doing is you're asking for help, right? If I point out to the waiter that my steak is charred and well done and burnt, and I tell him, the reason I'm telling him is because I hope he has a solution. Let me get you another steak. I'm sorry, sir. That's the best we can do. Here's a refund. Whatever. The problem is that you have to present the specific problem. In this terrible metaphor that is untrue because I make a mean steak, the problem is my steak is burnt. Now I'm asking you for a solution. Is the solution a new steak? Is the solution to offer me something else off the menu? Is the solution to say, here's your refund, get the hell out? Like, I'm asking you for a solution. To me, though, you have to put what the problem is on the table before anybody else can offer up a solution. If you're going to send Greg Sankey and Shane Beamer and Dawn Staley and Ray Tanner and Jimbo Fisher and all these other guys to Congress to ask for assistance in legislating NIL, I am good with that. But I need to know what it is you want to legislate. I need to know what it is you have a problem with. I need to know what it is you're going to change, right? Because if Lonzo comes back on Monday and he goes, Rob, I'm going to reshape the show. And then that's just the end of the sentence? Right. What? You're going to wait. What?
Okay, elaborate. You can't leave somebody with a cliffhanger like that.
Right. You got to tell me what the problem is. What are you reshaping? I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Lonzo might come back from vacation 4, 5, 6 days laid out on a Speedo on the beach. He might come back from vacation with some incredible new ideas for the show, some new gags, some new benchmarks, some new gimmicks. He might come back with an incredible vision for the show. But if he rolls up in this studio and just goes, I'm changing the show. Blah, what? No, what? No. You have to tell me why. You have to tell me what's wrong with the show. You have to tell me why that's wrong, and then you present your solution to that. And I might disagree from the beginning. He might come in and go, hey, Rob, I think that faces and heels is a terrible, terrible idea. And I go, I think it's a great segment. Gets a lot of engagement, a lot of interaction. We have a lot of fun with it, right? I may disagree with the problem, but you got to put the problem on the table. So again, no issue with Shane, Dawn, Ray, Greg, Jimbo, whoever the hell else going up to Capitol Hill and asking for legislators to offer a little assistance, a little guidelines as far as developing NIL. No problem with that at all. But I very much need to know, what do you have a problem with? What do you think that problem is? How do we fix it? Because otherwise, again, as I said yesterday with the Shane Bieber discussion we had yesterday, otherwise, it just feels like, hey, I don't like this system. It makes my job harder, and I'd like it to go away. That's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for me. All right, Texas says, fans, so you want the government to fix the NCAA? Right. The can is open, and it ain't coming back. College sports is now the wild, wild west in a semi-pro model. Sure. Tell me what the problem is, right? Just saying these platitudes doesn't do anything. I've heard that. Mark Ryan loves that phrase. College sports is the wild, wild west. What do you mean? Because when I say in my head, the wild, wild west, there's an image in your head. And you, for the most part, because it's common vernacular, know what I'm talking about. When I say wild, wild west, what do we mean? It is lawless. There are people shooting each other dead in the street. There are duels. It's ladies of the night and dudes getting hammered on warm whiskey in a bar saloon at 11:30. You see Tombstone, you know what the problems are. When I say the wild, wild west, we mean lawlessness. And in the sense of a literal interpretation of that, you know what I mean. You can say college sports is the wild, wild west, and I'm fine with that, but what do you mean? Because if you tell me what that means, if you tell me what you mean by college sports is the wild, wild west, if you can give me the things that make it the wild, wild west, do you know what we can start to work towards? Solutions towards those things. That's how you fix a problem. You identify it. You agree with the consensus that is the problem. You put forward solutions. You pick you pick the best solutions. You enact that solution. You interpret the results of that solution. And if the problem's fixed, good job. And if it's not, then you move to the next solution until you find one that works. When you say it's the wild, wild west, tell me what the hell you mean. And when you tell me what that means, I can tell you how to fix it. Let's take a break. We'll come back for hour number 2 with the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. You are not too far off. Like, don't even put it on the grill. Just hold it with the tongs over the grill and let it warm up a little bit. Rare steak is best steak. All right, guys, in the restroom. Be right back. Do not go. All right, guys and gals, appreciate you hanging out.
What's up, James?
James, welcome in, big fella. Good to have you. If y'all are enjoying the stream, man, do us a favor, share it around, put it up on your social. We're trying to grow the show. We want this thing to be a community. Our numero dos of the Rob Brown Show goes now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the fan upstate. I am frequently described as being obtuse. It's one of my favorite words.
It sounds so wonderful.
It's a great word.
Obtuse.
Obtuse. Not that I am wider than 90 degrees and less narrow or less wide than 180 degrees. I probably am. But the definition of annoyingly insensitive or slow to understand. I have been described as obtuse for a while, but I don't see it that way. Here's why I bring this up. We got a text. We were talking to the last. I don't plan on spending the whole show on this, all right? But I did want to address this last text. We got a text in the last segment that said, so, all caps for that one, you want the government to fix the NCAA. Right. The can is open and it ain't coming back. College sports is now the Wild Wild West and a semi-pro model. To which I responded, if you weren't with us for the end of the last hour, fine. But when people use the term Wild Wild West, usually it implies lawlessness, which is fine. But then I ask you to describe what that means. And I don't know about you, but in my head, it's described by like the first hour and 15 minutes of the movie Tombstone. Maybe the greatest movie ever made. It is lawlessness. It is dudes shooting each other dead in the street. It is train robberies. It's cattle rustling. It's ladies of the night and cowboys getting hammered in the bar. It's opium dens, right? It's all those things we see in our head when we think classic cowboy Wild Wild West. So if you were to say to me, we're going to fix that, you are going to become Doc Holliday and fix the Wild Wild West. Again, I can point to the greatest movie ever made, Tombstone, and we can look at the things that Doc Holliday did in order to fix that, right? You weren't allowed to carry guns in the city anymore. That stops people from shooting each other. You weren't allowed to wear the red sash because that designated that you were a cowboy. I see a man wearing a red sash, I kill the man wearing it. Doc went in. He said, you can still gamble and drink in the bars, but there's going to be order in these bars. So he started having people work the bars, etc. He listed the problems because you don't solve the solution of, you don't solve the problem of it's the Wild Wild West. You have to solve all the individual problems that make it that. I have heard people using the term college sports is now the Wild Wild West. And I accept that. But if you're going to start telling me that, I need to know what you mean. I think it's one of those platitudes that people lean on to not actually have to dig into what the problems are, right? Well, that texter is written back to the show at 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We'll read them and break them down. He said, okay, the problem. Why is it the Wild Wild West? And I'm going to go in the order he sent them now. Number one, tampering. Now, we talked about this yesterday on the show, right? We read you some quotes from Shane Beamer, who effectively insinuated that roster tampering has happened to Gamecock players. He insinuated that the players, Marshawn Lloyd, Jaheim Bell, etc., may or may not have been tampered with. Now, I will not argue that that is taking place. I will not argue that there is tampering. I am not going to say I believe it is, but I won't say that I disbelieve that it is, right? Not to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but as I've said on the show many times, there are 3 positions that you can take against the claim. Position number 1 is, I believe the claim. Enough evidence has been presented to me to believe the claim. Number 2, I do not believe the claim. I actively believe the claim to be false. I have evidence to the contrary of the claim. And position 3 is, I don't know. I do not believe that it is or believe that it isn't. I don't know. I do not have enough supporting evidence or contradictory evidence to believe that the claim is valid or not. I take the third position when it comes to tampering. I acknowledge that tampering is a very real possibility. I believe that tampering is a very real possibility, all right? I'm not arguing with that. I'm saying if you're going to do something about it, drop some names. Tell us who's doing it, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, yada, yada, yada. Now, we'll put that to the side because we did that conversation yesterday. We don't need to go back to that. But let me address the second claim. He said, number 2, the concept of the student athlete doesn't exist anymore. Kids don't go to particular schools now. They go to the money. Oh, I have bad news for you. That's not new. That's not like a now problem. That's been happening for years. It's just that the money used to be below the table. And it was one of those things that's like out of sight, out of mind, right? It's a very human ability to create a mental position where if I don't see the problem, if it's not right in front of me, the problem's not happening, right? You want my favorite example that's going to bum you all out? Sarah McLachlan. I love Sarah McLachlan. She has the voice of an angel. But here's the thing. We all associate Sarah McLachlan with what? Sad puppy commercials.
Yep, those sad kitty cat puppy commercials.
Sad puppy commercials. And those commercials make you feel like a piece of boat when you see them. But why? You ever really thought about why they make you feel so bad? They make you feel so bad because 99% of the time, we're not thinking about mistreated, abused animals. We're not thinking about homeless animals. We're not thinking about animals that are chained to a tree left out in the snow. We're not thinking about animals that are chained to a tree left out in 100-degree temperatures. We're not thinking about animals who aren't being fed, who aren't being medicated. We're not thinking about them. Why? Because we don't see them. And then here comes Sarah in the arms of the angel. And what happens? It's in your face. Now you have to stare into that shivering puppy that's out in the snow. Now you've got to look at that one-eyed, three-legged kitty cat that ain't got enough food to eat. Now you got to look at that chain puppy that is outside in the desert with not a water bowl to be seen. You have to look at that and you have to address that. And for just a minute in your noggin, you have to come to the rationalization that that is happening every day, all over America, all over the world. And let's be honest, how often do you think about it? How often do you do anything about it? I think we all, for the most part, anybody with a conscience would love to be able to go and fix the problem of homeless and abused animals, right? If I had the ability to just make sure that every dog was healthy and had a home, that every cat was healthy and had a home, keep your damn cats inside, I would do it. But I don't because I can't, right? I got my own problems. I got my own stuff to deal with. I can't give my paychecks to animal shelters. I wish I could. As James said, I feel terrible for not adopting 25 animals. Every dog I've ever gotten has been a rescue dog for that exact reason. It is the literal least I can do, right? You have to address that. You, as a college football fan, have to address the fact that this has always been happening. It's always been happening. It's just been that the payments have been under the table, which means the payments have been out of sight, which means the payments have been out of mind, which means you got to pretend that they weren't happening. That's why we have all the jokes about the $500 handshakes. They were done that way for a reason, so that you had effectively mental plausible deniability. Well, I don't think any of my guys are getting paid. Why would you? You don't have any reason to. They are. They are. There's a reason that certain programs, if you go to their campus, you will see every football player driving a new Dodge Challenger. It is because there's a car dealership in that hood that really likes having great football players come to his school, right? Now that they are above board, now that they're legal, the same thing is happening. It's just now you have to look at it. And you just don't want kids. You just don't want kids being paid, right? He said kids don't go to particular schools now, they go to the money. Again, that's not new. And again, these kids are still student athletes. They are going to college. Most of them have academic requirements they're obligated to meet in order to maintain their scholarship, in order to maintain their position on the team. Now, you want to be mad at somebody? Be mad at the schools like North Carolina a couple of years back that allowed their players to take BS classes in order to meet those requirements. I'm more offended by that. But as Ray Tanner accurately pointed out, if you send your kid to college to go to engineering school, and let's say that a year into engineering school, they develop this new incredible invention that makes building skyscrapers 80% easier, they're going to be celebrated. And they're going to be able to sell that product, and they're going to be able to name that product after themselves, and they're going to be able to put their picture on the box or whatever it comes in. And they're going to be able to make a lot of money off of that incredible engineering invention. And they're still a student. They're still taking classes. They're still doing work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? They are still student athletes. They still have to go to class. There are still requirements that have to be met. There are still obligations they have to fulfill in order to be on the team. And what is it that gives them the notoriety that allows them to profit off of their name, image, and likeness? Not labor. Not labor. Keep in mind, they are not profiting off their labor. They are profiting off of selling their name, image, and likeness. I don't get paid to do physical labor, for instance, for the organizations that I endorse, right? I don't get paid money to do work for the warehouse in Midtown. I get paid money to utilize what we have built with this show, what we have built with this station, and my voice in particular to tell you about the warehouse at Midtown. It's the same with these players. They do not get paid to be an athlete. They get paid to endorse a product, good, or service. It just happens to be people want to pay them to do that because of their athletic prowess and success, right? Respectfully, the problems that you have thrown down here, one of them, tampering, I agree. That's bad. That is a problem. But until people are willing to come forward and start naming names and describing how it's being done, What do you want to do about it? What do you want to do about it? The rule's already in place that you cannot use an NIL payment as incentive to get a kid to come to your school. If someone is breaking that rule, serve them up on a plate and axe their ass. Get them out of college sports. Ban them from having any contact with anybody. Do it. Sever their connection with the university. Sever their connection with the university and Booster Collective they're doing it on behalf of, and get them the hell out. No trespass their ass from their college campus. You cannot go to the University of Blank's football games anymore. You're done. You're out. Put names, put heads on the platter, and let's do something. But if all we're going to do is create a scenario where we say this is a problem and we don't put anything on the table, we don't talk about solutions, we don't talk about who's violating these rules, we don't talk about how these rules are being violated, when and where they're being violated, then what do you want to do? And again, this is my problem. This is what kicked this story off. I have zero problem with Shane and Dawn and Ray and SEC reps going up to DC to ask for help. But if I am a sitting congressman, aside from the fact that America's screwed, if I'm a sitting congressman and Dawn and Shane and Ray and a group of other SEC reps are all sitting in front of whatever subcommittee I'm the chair of, and they go, we need help with NIL. My question would be, great. How? What do you mean? What problems are there that you want solved? What issues are taking place that you need a solution to? And what, in your expert opinion, right? The only reason you go in front of Congress is because you are an expert on the thing Congress is talking about. If you're going to go there and you're going to present these problems, you are also the expert witness. What are your solutions? How do you think we fix this? So you're not going to get a lot of that out of coaches or administrators. Why? Because every time they put a restriction down, it restricts them too, right? So I don't know. I'm intrigued to see what Shane, Dawn, Ray, and the rest of the group say. I'm intrigued to see how the conversation goes. I'm intrigued to see how the legislators respond to it. But like I said, just saying it's the wild, wild west doesn't do anything. If I go to my boss and I go, we got a problem in the studio, and he goes, what's the problem? And I go, it's the wild, wild west down there. And then I walk out of the office, he's not going to do anything because he doesn't know what the hell to do. So tell me what you mean. Tell me what the individual problems are. Tell me what you think is the right direction. And then let's all put our heads together and see what we come up with. Texter says, Rob, thanks for the explanation and the dialogue about my text. I am not pretending that money under the table never existed. It was a problem then. It is a greater problem now, but it is one of the problems that must be addressed. Deep down, I don't feel that it is fixable and that the NCAA, as we know today, is a dead man walking. I agree. It is. Don't put that on these kids, bro. Don't put these on these kids. You know why the NCAA is dead? Because the Big Ten and the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC can't get enough money. That's why. They cannot get and keep enough money. So everything that they are doing is about maximizing profit for the institutions, for the conferences. So they have wrested as much power away as they can from the NCAA. They have basically neutered the NCAA to the best of their ability in order to generate and maximize their own profits. And there is no one happier that you are blaming this on the kids than the NCAA. Why? Because the money that's going to the kids via NIL, a large chunk of it used to go to the booster clubs and the schools, and therefore the conferences, right? They are thrilled that you are blaming this on the kids because it means you're not blaming it on them. You're not making them look bad when they are the driving force of the changes. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here, in just a minute from now. We have massive breaking news out of the world of golf. Are we going to talk golf on the Rob Brown Show? Yeah, because this was most certainly not on my bingo card. We'll address it next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Gunta.
That's huge news.
Yes, it is.
I just read the article about it. The deal will end all pending litigations regarding antitrust claims. Two entities signed an agreement that would combine the PGA Tour and Live Golf's commercial businesses and rights into a new, yet-to-be-named company.
Total 8.5. Hunter Brown goes to the Stros 5-2, 3.61 ERA. Against Kevin Gossman. Been really good
Yes, James, I'm glad you said that because that's absolutely something I'm going to be saying when we come back.
Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe, fixing seats so every fan can enjoy every game. And Allie, who keeps her stadium running smoothly from the moment the first game starts to the last goal of the season. At Granger, you're our MVPs, and we're always here for you. With supplies and solutions for every industry, 24/7 customer support. Call clickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones.
Hey, it's Rob Brown from the Rob Brown Show. For the ones.
You've been thinking about moving to a new home, but you're worried about rising interest rates. Maybe you're concerned that the housing market, which is constantly shifting based on interest rates and inventory, is just too big of a risk to take on by yourself. Or maybe you're worried that higher interest rates might make that dream home unaffordable at a point in time where we're all trying to save up money. Listen, at Allocate, they understand your concerns. And here's something you may not know. Higher interest rates do not necessarily mean a higher monthly mortgage payment. Home prices are normalizing, and that can mean a new home with a lower payment than you might have paid last year for a similar property. So if you're ready
A joke for you. It's a dad joke. You know why chickens rock?
Why is that? Oh, God.
It's a dad joke.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. These programs, which the credit card companies like to keep secret, exist to aid American consumers struggling with overwhelming credit card debt by offering tremendous savings and real debt relief. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt and are A-class rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic times. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief Hotline now. Call 800-873-7171. 800-873-7171. 800-873-7171.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Apple. Message generates real-time messages required. Terms apply. Available at apple.com/TNC.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, let's go. You're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment. Text radio to 64,000 to try Babbel for free. That's radio to 64,000 to try Babbel free. RADIO to 64,000. Growing a business brings pressure. Staying compliant and retaining top talent in challenging times. You feel stretched thin. Fortunately, there's Insperity. They put over 35 years of HR service and technology to work, offering my employees competitive benefit options while lightening my HR load. Engaged people empowered to be their best means overcoming obstacles. With Insperity, nothing seems impossible. Insperity, HR that makes a difference.
Sponsored by Jeff Martin Auctioneers. Jeff Martin Auctioneers is back with the Summer East Coast Public Auction on Thursday, June 15th in Pilser, featuring construction and farm equipment, trucks, trailers, and more. Bid your way live on site or online at jeffmartinauctioneers.com. Experience the difference. License 423.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and guess that ain't a one of y'all saw this headline coming. Not just today, like, period. It is being reported by ESPN and other outlets that the PGA Tour, Live Golf, and the DP World Tour have all merged to, quote, unify the game of golf, end quote. That got announced earlier this morning. As part of the merger, the public investment fund, which owns Live Golf, signed an agreement to combine its golf-related commercial businesses and rights with the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. The new entity has not announced its name yet, but will be a, quote, collectively owned for-profit entity to ensure that all stakeholders benefit from a model that delivers maximum excitement and competition amongst the game's best players. And that is literally, ladies and gentlemen, all the details we have right now. That's it. That's what we got. DP, Live, PGA have all merged with each other, and that's what we got. We don't have a name. We don't have a structure. It appears that there will be some merging of the power structures of each, but this is huge, dude. This is huge. It's huge for a handful of reasons. Number one, this one is mostly of interest to me. I'm not a big Live Tour guy, all right? I tried it. Like, the golf was okay, but the production was just crap, man. It was just bad. I told you guys way back. Like, I was watching a tournament a few weeks back. It was on. And the camera they were using on the tee box at, I think it was 10, a highlight hole. The camera they were using, ordinarily you'd have the camera right behind the golfer so you can see the backswing and then you can follow the ball and they'll light it up with one of those little highlighter things, whatever. This one was back into his right. I thought, all right, well, this is kind of interesting. Like, you get kind of a combination of seeing his swing from the front, which is a golfer I'm always intrigued by. And you get to see the ball leave the screen and kind of get at least a gauge of where it's going. And then as the golfer stepped up to the tee to hit his drive, out steps the guy that holds up the paddles that say quiet right in front of the camera. So you saw the back of like a 70-year-old dude's head.
Oops.
with the two quiet paddles in the air, and then you saw like the head of the driver come out from behind his head and then go back away, and then you heard the shot, and then it was just gone. It was like, what? I gotta think that there's a few reasons for this. I think first and foremost, the rage directed towards the Live Tour, it's kind of died off, right? I think it kind of died off. The Live Tour, when it started, and they got their TV contracts, or, well, I guess the first year they really were just broadcasting on YouTube. But they got their TV contract with, what was it, the CW or whatever. When that started, and there was all this fighting going on between Live and PGA, I was like, all right, there's a lot of people who are driving a hard line in the sand because of where the funding for the Live Tour comes from. And in all honesty, I get it. The Saudi government aren't exactly cherubs. You know what I'm saying? All right? I get it. But they got a chance here. They got a chance here because at the end of the day, we can, as I've pointed out on this show a million times before and a million more will I again, we love some drama, dog. We just do. We love drama, bro. We do. Soap operas would not have been on television for the existence of television if we didn't love drama. Sports would not be one of the nation's most popular draws if we didn't love drama, right? We love drama. We love drama between people. That's why reality shows are what they are. We don't care if the drama's scripted. We just love the drama. And there was drama initially and out of the gate. And then Rory did a great job keeping the drama alive from the PGA side. Greg Norman did a wonderful job keeping the drama alive from the Live Tour side. And then it just kind of like stopped, right? It just kind of stopped. And I think a good chunk of the reason that it kind of stopped at that point was because, again, the production value of the Live Tour, it was harder to watch than it was to enjoy the drama. I think B, after a while of the same drama over and over, people get tired of it, right? People get tired of it. That is why The Bachelor eventually went to The Bachelorette. That's why they alternate and flip-flop. Bachelor, Bachelorette. That's why The Real World, the OG reality show, hop cities, hop neighborhoods, and brought in new people all the time to keep it fresh. You need new drama. The Live Tour PGA drama kind of got stale. About 3 weeks ago, Rory McIlroy effectively backed off of it. And what have we heard since then? Nothing. The only conversation has been what events we're going to let the Live Tour guys play on it or not. And that brings to point number 2. Point number 2 is if everything had stayed the way that it was, other events were going to potentially suffer, right? We got guys at the Masters. We got guys at the PGA Championship. Live guys showed up really well in both of those events, honestly. But you got Ryder Cups. You got President's Cups. You got FedEx playoffs at the end. Like, you've got all these other events, and a third of the world's best golfers aren't there. Like, how do you get drummed up when you say, coming up this weekend live from Torrey Pines, 66% of the world's greatest? Like, it's not the same, right? It's not the same. So I wonder how that goes. But I think other events, I would not be shocked if we learn down the road that some of the organizers of these other events were hitting the PGA like, dude, you need to let them in. Like, the event's going to be better. Everybody's going to make more money if you let these guys in. And that kind of drove it in this direction. I am really interested to get the details because I want to know, did the Saudis call the PGA? Did the PGA call the Saudis? Was there a sit down kumbaya peace pipe moment between Rory and Phil where they were like, hey, we need to get this figured out? Like, how did this all come about?
What about quid pro quo with this for that? That could be, we'll give you this if you let us back in, if we merge. Obviously the details are not coming in. And the good question is, what if one of the questions they asked was this: will you let all those players who left the PGA back into the PGA with us merging?
Well, I mean, they will now. If they're merged, they're all in one group, right? Now, Joey B brings up an interesting thought on the stream, which you can watch at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, or the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Rob Brown Show on Twitch as well. He said, wonder how those $100 million contracts will roll over, or if they'll roll over into this new entity, because these PGA guys that stayed look like suckers if the live guys are just getting to waltz back on the tour with their hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a great question. My gut says Joey B, though my gut's an idiot. Look how big it is. My gut says that the Live Tour guys signed these contracts, but much like most contracts, were getting paid installments. So I would bet like whatever they were guaranteed to be paid is likely going to be transferred somehow. But again, if I signed a contract with Live Tour and Live Tour merged with the PGA, I still want that contract fulfilled. Oh, and by the way, I get to go now play for PGA purses as well. Yeah, my life's good, dude. My life's good.
Yep, double the money.
But
double the pleasure.
As old man Papa Brown used to gently pat me on my sweet little face and say, Rob Brown, he didn't call me that, but that's what I'm going to say here. He'd say, Robert, listen. Life's not fair. Life's not fair. Imagine being a PGA guy. Imagine being loyal to the brand. Imagine staying on board. Imagine not leaving for a $100 million payday with the Live Tour. Imagine not playing 3-day tournaments instead of 4. And then a year and a half later, here comes Phil strolling back to the door. Rocking the Prada, because I got all the cash, homie. All the cash. This is really interesting, dude. This is really, and again, I genuinely don't know what to make of it yet. The details at this point. Okay, ESPN has added some more details. All right, let's take a break. I'm not going to spend the rest of this hour. Yes, I might. This is huge, but I do have to take a break. So when we come back, ESPN has updated their article with some more deets. So I'm going to take the break to read this, and when we come back, I'll tell you, to the best of my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion, exactly what's happening. That's next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, give me 45 seconds. Actually, give me like 3.5 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back.
Treat yourself to Wendy's Strawberry Frosty this summer and make time for Frosty Time. Choose wise, choose Wendy's. Now open till midnight or later.
The Rob Brown Show, now 9 to noon.
Took a lot of crack on Florida to get Florida to play an out-of-conference road slate, right?
Yes. Okay, that's clarification.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to read through this article to find out exactly what happened. Said one PGA Tour player reached by ESPN on Tuesday. No effing way.
I'm a guy like Rory that turned down that $250 million, carried the flag for the PG, just had the PG sell out for those same Saudis. I'd be furious. 10 seconds.
Enjoy your stay. It's 13. Oh, 13. That's Taylor's such a number. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
All right, so again, we won't spend too much more time on this, but I do think this is this might be, and I don't think I'm being dramatic here. This might be the biggest story in the history of the game of golf. I'm not kidding. Again, I do my best not to fall into knee-jerk reactions. I do my best not to overreact to things as they are happening. But this genuinely might be the biggest story in the history of professional golf. So here's what we know so far. The best part about this is a single line in the middle of the story that ESPN has put up. It's written by Mark Schlabach. That says, and I quote, said one PGA Tour player reached by ESPN on Tuesday, quote, no bleeping way, end quote. Which, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. In a statement, the circuit said the parties have signed an agreement that combines PIFs, that is the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, PIF's golf-related commercial businesses and rights, including Live Golf, with the commercial businesses and rights of the PGA Tour and DP World Tour into a new collectively formed for-profit entity to ensure that all stakeholders benefit from a model that delivers maximum excitement and competition amongst the game's best players. Jay Monahan said, quote, after 2 years of disruption and distraction, this is a historic day for the game we all know and love. This transformational partnership recognizes the immeasurable strength of the PGA Tour's history, legacy, and pro-competitive model, and combines with it the DP World Tour and Live, including the team golf concept, to create an organization that will benefit golf's players, commercial, and charitable partners and fans. End quote. As part of the deal, both sides are dropping all lawsuits involving Live Golf against each other effective immediately, which I imagine is actually a big part of this, right? A big part of it. Saudi Arabia is already into Live Golf for about $2 billion. That includes paying the players. That includes putting on the events, paying sponsorships, et cetera, et cetera. They're already in for $2 billion. We do not know, or at least I am unaware of, how much they have gotten back in return for that $2 billion put down. I assume it's got to be in the same ballpark. Again, the point of this for the Live Tour was never to be profitable. Never to be profitable. The point of Live Tour, as we have said multiple times, is to whitewash sports wash is the term everybody's using, to sports wash the image of Saudi Arabia, which in the West is not good. Not good at all. Now, according to Schleybaugh, quote, still to be determined is how players like Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson, who defected to the Saudi-funded Live Golf for 9-figure bonuses, can rejoin the PGA Tour after this year. It's also unclear what form the Live Golf League would take in 2024. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan said in a memo to players that a thorough evaluation would determine how to integrate team golf into the game. Monahan said in a phone interview with the AP, they were going down their path. We were going down ours. And after a lot of introspection, you realize all this tension in the game is not a good thing. End quote. Okay. Yasir Al-Rumayyan, the governor of Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, will join the board of the PGA Tour, which continues to operate its tournaments. Al-Rumayyan will be the chairman of the new commercial group, with Monahan as the CEO and the PGA Tour having majority stake in the new venture. The public investment fund will invest in the new commercial venture. I will simply say this. There are going to be a lot of American golf fans who are going to have to do some mental gymnastics today, right? A lot of American golf fans who want it, and again, I don't have an issue with this at all, who wanted nothing to do with the Live Golf because of the source of funding that it had, the Saudis, not the best group of people on planet Earth. Now the Saudis are directly invested in the PGA. So does that mean you have to walk from the PGA? Does that mean you are now no longer able to enjoy golf, right? I don't know. This is going to be really, really interesting. Joey B says, has this blatant Saudi cash grab caused Jay Monahan to pass Roger Goodell as the most garbage commissioner in American sports? Well, first off, Rob Manfred says hello. But I don't know. Like I said, I think right now, look, I'm glad this is breaking now when we're on the air, sure. But right now, I don't know, right? There's part of me that wonders, was the PGA losing money in viewership, right? Do I think the Live Tour was dramatically cutting into the PGA Tour? No. Does that mean it definitely wasn't? No. I don't know. Is this a cash grab? Or was this Jay Monahan going, yo, sometimes you've just got to hold your nose and swallow, right? Sometimes you just got to take the bitter medicine. Because while I do not think that Live Tour was today a big threat to the PGA Tour, I do know that it had an organization behind it for whom money was no object. Throwing $2 billion at this league was nothing for the Saudis, right?
Sometimes when you win, you lose.
Yeah, nothing for the Saudis. It is very difficult. The Saudis were playing this. If you're a video game guy, here's a reference for you. The Saudis were playing this on God mode, right? Infinite resources mode. Everybody who's ever played The Sims or City Builder or Civilization or any of those strategy building games, we have all at one point or another hit the cheat code to turn on infinite resource mode. Why? Really easy to win when money's no issue, right? So my suspicion here has got to be that the Saudis really wanted a stake in the PGA Tour, right? We want to be a part of that. We want to be invested in that. The PGA Tour was going, all right, so we have two options. We, with limited resources, can continue to fight the Live Tour and their effective unlimited resources forever, or we can hold our nose wrap it up in some cheese, and take our medicine, and the Live Tour doesn't exist anymore. Remember that long-ass thing I told you about out of sight, out of mind earlier in the show? If the Saudis are part of the PGA Tour, the Saudis can promote the PGA Tour in Saudi Arabia, maybe around the Middle East. But it's not like they can just plant their picture on advertising in the States. So I think Jay Monahan may, to some degree, be playing this as, look, if we give the Saudis a stake in the PGA, if we let the Saudis be a part of this thing, we can keep them, by and large, out of the public eye. We can keep them off the television screen. We can keep them away from our fans and our viewership, and they'll stop thinking about them, right? They'll stop thinking about them. They'll stop talking about them. They'll stop engaging with them. And if they stop thinking about, talking about, and engaging with them, they go away, and what's left over? The PGA Tour. Joey B said, if I'm a guy like Rory who turned down that $250 to carry the flag for the PGA just to have the PGA sell out to those same Saudis, I'd be furious. Yeah, somebody give Rory a mic. Let's hear Rory's podcast right quick. What do you think? Because that's a great point. Great point. Dude turned down a 9-figure paycheck to move to Live Tour in order to continue to defend the PGA Tour. And then what happened? The PGA Tour just forked over, I assume, a lot of money. Well, technically, I guess they got a lot of money from the Saudis for the Saudis to have some element of control over the tour that Rory now works for. This whole thing's real interesting, man. Real interesting. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get away from golf. Madcraft said, wasn't Liv struggling to make any profit, though? It was never about profit for the Live Tour. The Live Tour was not about profit. The Live Tour was about image. It was about creating something that people would talk about and go, oh, the Saudis are doing something awesome. Maybe they're not so bad with all of the murders and stuff, human rights abuses, et cetera, et cetera. It was never about profit. It was always about image. And that's this. All right, let's take a break. We're back after this. The Rob Brown Show's third and final hour is next. This is the Fan Upstate.
say there was a famous philosopher in the 20th century who led all this know that this was going
Skrilla with his own intro music. Love to see that.
Oh, wow.
Love to see that.
Guess who's back.
on. She was completely accurate. I think she should be commended and should have been listened to, but we didn't.
Same great show, new time. Now 9 a.m. only on the Fan Upstate.
Join me, Mark Ryan, with Offsides this Wednesday from 3 to 7 at Eagles Markets at 10903 Anderson Road in Piedmont. We'll also be giving away a $25 Eagles gift card. We'll see you there.
Meet Joe A, Joe B, and Joe C. 3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect. Support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checkout. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, any member FDIC.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features. New electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/movingforward.
Get it. Don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me hanging.
Oh, my bad. I wasn't paying attention. And away we go. The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of the show. I am Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo, out on a well-earned R&R. He'll be back with us next week. My dude Brandon filling in for us all week long. Remember, I will be here tomorrow and Thursday. I am out on Friday as I will be taking in, speaking of golf, a little bit of it over at the BMW Pro-Am at Thornblade on Friday. So if you're going to be there. By the way, Thursday morning, the show will actually be live from Thornblade. Thursday morning, we will be doing this show live from the opening day of the BMW Pro-Am. I'm very excited about that. So if you're going to be out there on Thursday, come find me. I'll be the very loud but really good-looking guy with a headset on. We'd love to see you. Come on out. Going to be a wonderful time. Fingers crossed. We're going to have a couple of the amateurs, some of the celebrities coming by to chat with us, to talk with us. We'll let you know when we get those locked down. I don't want to jinx it yet, but you guys know some of the names that are going to be out there. Ken Griffey Jr. is going to be out there. Canelo Alvarez is going to be out there. Brian Bumgarner from The Office, Kevin Malone, he's going to be out there. So we're hoping we're going to be able to get a couple of these guys and gals on to chat with us Thursday. We'll let you know when and if we get them locked down and locked in.
Fingers crossed for Ken Griffey Jr., please.
Dude, you don't even know. You don't even know. I grew up, as did most people my age, in the era of the kid. I've told this story on the air before, but I found out something interesting the other day, and I'm really, really excited just for the possibility to tell them this story in person. I've told it on the radio. Some of you have probably heard it, but when I was a kid, there was a year my dad, this would have been probably like 8th grade or something like that. There was a game that my dad was my baseball coach for many years of my life growing up. And there was a day where we had a game, and I was slated to start off the bump that day. I was a pitcher, and I was slated to start off the bump that day. And when we were going through BP and warm-ups, I had my hat turned backwards because that's what Griffey Jr. did, yeah? So I had my hat turned backwards, and my dad was like, turn it around, put it on straight. It's a ball cap. You're on a ball field. You want to turn it around? That's fine. Do it on your own time. But when you're out here, ball players wear their caps forward. I was like, Dad, I'm wearing it backwards. Griffey Jr. wears it backwards when he does warm-ups. I'm doing it. He's like, you got two options. You can turn your hat around and have it facing the right way, or you can get your ass on the dugout and not play today. And I don't know why it was, because Rob Brown is not this guy. Was never this guy as a kid. I'm not this guy now. But Rob Brown said, no. If Griffey Jr. can do it and be the kid, be the best, then there's no reason I can't. And my old man walked to the dugout, grabbed the lineup sheet, scratched my name off of it, put me on the pine, and I did not play that day. And I sat at the end of the pine with my cap on backwards for the entire game. Got scratched from my start that day because of it. So I still have that hat. It's a Shalimar Little League All-Star hat. I still have that hat. And so my plan is to see if I can get Griff to sign that hat. Like when I'm doing this job and I'm out there working, you don't ask for autographs. Like, you can ask for a picture in the context of like, can we get a picture of you doing the show with me for social media purposes? But like, you have your producer, your engineer, your promo guy, or whoever, you get them to take, and you don't make a deal of it. Just get the picture and stop. Most of my pictures with celebrities are them sitting on the radio with me, right? I'm breaking my rule to get him to sign that cap because of what that cap means to me. But I heard Griff tell a story, and if we get him, I will ask him to tell this story on our show too. But Griff said, somebody asked Griff not too long ago, why did you wear your cap backwards, right? Like, that's not the way ball players do it. Why did you do it? And he said, because when I was growing up and my dad was in the show, and when my dad would bring me to practice, when he was going to play ball, when he would bring me to practice, he said my dad always kept multiple hats in his bag, right? Which, same. I own legit 60 hats. At any given point, I've got 3 to 5 hats wherever I am. I got like a couple in the car, couple in the office. I got them hanging around the entire roof of my studio at the house. He said my dad would have multiple caps. And he said whenever my dad would have me go shag balls in the outfield, I just wanted to wear his cap. I wanted to wear one of my dad's hats. So I would grab one. He said, but my dad had a big head and I had this little peanut on top of my neck. He said, so my dad's hats were always too big and they would flop, or if I put them on forward, the bill would slide down over my face. He said, so I would put it backwards so that when the bill fell, it would just be over my neck and I had the hat on backwards. And then I did that for so many years that when I got to the show, it was just my routine to put the cap on backwards. And that's where that came from. I'm like, that's awesome, man. Like, that's why Griffey Jr. wore his cap backwards, which is why I wore my cap backwards. And then my dad benched me for not doing it the right way. And now listen, that's one of many lessons I took away from playing ball for the old man. But I was like, that's a dope story. That's a big circle. So anyway, we will be at the BMW Pro-Am on Thursday doing the show live just off the 18th. I'll hang out for a few hours after that. And then I will be back out there on Friday. But I'll just be hanging out drinking whiskey like a grown-up. Can't wait. So if you're going to be out there Thursday or Friday, please come by and see me. I'd love to get to shake your hand and meet you. Let us talk, ladies and gentlemen, a little Carolina Panther football, shall we? Let's get to some cat stuff here. And let's start with a story that started making the rounds earlier this week. It's a story that I genuinely love. It was reported earlier this week that in the lead up to the draft, the Panthers knew about a week and a half before that they were going to draft Bryce Young. They had their minds made up. They knew the guy that they were going with. But they elected not to give him a playbook. And they didn't want to give him a playbook because they didn't want to, A, tell Bryce that he was the guy, and B, tip their cap to the rest of the league. Now, they can say they knew they were going to draft Bryce, but I think they also wanted to kind of keep it up in the air because you never know if that phone's going to ring when you're on the clock from a team that's desperate going, we will give you every draft pick forever to get that number 1 overall and make a deal that is quite literally too good to pass up. So they decided not to give Bryce a playbook. Then they drafted Bryce. Bryce showed up at Charlotte facilities. Already knew most of the offense. Why? Because just in case he got drafted number 1 overall, Bryce Young taught himself everything he could find about Frank Reich's offense. Taught himself tendencies, taught himself passing route organization, taught himself some of the offshoot plays, etc. BY showed up to Charlotte with a very, very solid understanding already of what Frank Reich's offense looked like, and he did so without the playbook. Yes, please. Yes, please. Give me a QB that can not only teach himself the offense just based on film, but has the attitude that that's what he needs to do, right? Like, that's what I'm looking for. If he would have showed up and been like, where's my playbook? I need to dig in. All right, cool. That's a normal dude. It's a normal dude. But here's the reality. I want you to think about the greatest quarterbacks of our time: Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. None of them are normal dudes, right? You can listen to any of them talk when they do interviews on late night talk shows or whatever else. And you can hear, just based on the way that they talk, that they're not, like, they don't see or process the world the way that normal people do. It's the same with basketball. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. These guys don't see and respond to the world the way that you and I do. And you can't if you want to be at that level. So BY, just in case, because again, remember, the Panthers did not tell Bryce Young he was going to be the number 1 overall pick until he was, well, the number 1 overall pick. BY, just in case. And I think within a week and a half, Vegas had obviously figured out that he was that guy. But there was always the chance that the Panthers stun the world and decide to go CJ Stroud. There was the chance that somebody makes Carolina an offer that was just simply too good not to take, and they end up trading out of number 1. There's a lot of different ways that this could have played out. But BY decided, I'm probably going to be a cat. Let me go learn this offense. And he dug into game film. He dug into tape. He dug into books. He learned everything he could learn about Frank Reich's offense, which makes so much more sense now why it is that he has showed up to Charlotte, and through 2 weeks of OTAs, Bryce Young has a command of the offense. Bryce Young is dropping dots, right? We heard the story not but a week ago or so that they were in a huddle at an OTA late last week. The coaches were going over a play in the playbook, and BY went, that's not right. There's a typo here, or the route's drawn wrong, or whatever it was that he pointed out. And the coaches went, oh, damn, he's right, and had to go fix the playbook. BY pointed out to the coaching staff that the coaching staff's playbook was wrong. It now makes more sense that he's got that level of command, that understanding of Frank Reich's offense, when apparently he's the dude that just said, yeah, I'll just learn the offense. I'll just know it, right? When I auditioned for this gig, when the now boss called me and was like, hey, can you come up in 2 weeks and do an audition on the air? I was like, yeah. And I sat there for that 2 weeks every day in my studio with the Alexa playing the Fan Upstate so that when I got here and he went, hey, what do you think about this show that's on from, well, at the time, 9 to noon? And I was like, oh, I like it because blank and blank. I dislike it because blank and blank. I do think it fits your audience in this way, but I think it misses in this way, right? You want to learn those things. That tells me you're serious about the job. I love that story from Bryce Young. I adore that story from Bryce Young. One more quick story real quick before we take a break. We have been looking at Carolina as a potential free agent landing destination for names, right? And why wouldn't they be? Fitterer and Tepper have opened the checkbook. They've been willing to roll the dice. They bring in DJ Chark. They bring in Adam Thielen, et cetera, et cetera. Now there are 2 more names. One that seems less likely, one that I'm really intrigued by. Obviously, we've been talking about, spending time discussing, thinking about Nuke, thinking about DeAndre Hopkins, right? Could D-Hop be a fit? He is a Carolina kid. He's from here, right? The longer we go, the more I think no. The more I think no. Now, I don't necessarily think it is just because of that list that he put out. But outside of Carolina fans, not a lot of people really believe that Carolina's a Super Bowl threat this year. I don't either, to be honest. I think they're a threat to win the division. I think they're a threat to maybe get a divisional round win, but I don't think they're quite yet ready to make it to a Super Bowl. And Diop has made it clear that he's ready to work towards the Super Bowl. Now, this one's interesting to me because Diop has apparently had at least a baseline conversation with the Houston Texans, who they're going to be worse than Carolina, and the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns make a little bit more sense because he'd be reunited with Deshaun Watson. And if you're okay with that, then that makes sense. But there hasn't been any contact that I'm aware of. And I would think if Carolina was a possibility, that already would have happened. It's the second name that I'm really intrigued by. That second name is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is still on the roster for the Minnesota Vikings. But it's interesting because they're in a weird spot here. Dalvin Cook is got a contract set up that is the opposite of the norm. Dalvin Cook will make less money if he is on the roster when July 1st rolls around. I don't know what the exact date is, but it's somewhere in that hood. Dalvin Cook is likely then going to be cut by the Minnesota Vikings. It appears that for whatever reason, Minnesota does not believe that Dalvin Cook is worth the money that they're interested in. Now, before anybody gets wildly excited, pump the brakes, take the metaphorical chill pill, because remember, Carolina's already signed a Super Bowl veteran running back in Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is set to get a 4-year, $25.4 million pact with guarantees totaling over the life of the 4 years up to $13 million. So would the Panthers be interested in investing more into the running back position, which, by the way, is a position that is seeing NFL teams invest less and less into it? The answer to me, despite the opining of many Panther bloggers and podcasters on the interwebs, is no. No. Listen, a 1-2 punch of Dalvin Cook and Sanders would be one of the best running back tandems in the league. No question. Dalvin Cook is a better pass catcher than Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is an adequate, an average screen pass grabber. Dalvin Cook's very good at the screen pass. I've been watching him do it since his time down in Florida State. So it would open it up a little bit. But here's the problem. It's about 3 other spots that money would be better served. That money would be better served grabbing a number one wide receiver. That being said, I don't think there are any more that are going to be available, at least not that we're aware of, for the price that Carolina can pay. We know Devontae is going to probably be made available for trade from Oakland, but he's going to be a guy who commands at the minimum a first-round pick. Carolina does not have one for next year, so they're probably out of play. Outside of that, I don't know what other big-name wide receivers are available, but they could absolutely use another inside linebacker. They could absolutely use an edge rusher. Now, again, edge rusher to me is not as important in the 3-4 as it would be if they were in the 4-3 still, but it's still an important spot. They could use money there. I think there are better places to invest than the backfield. I would rather go all in on D-Hop than D-Cook. And I love Dalvin Cook, but I'd rather go all in on D-Hop than D-Cook. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Hit the middle of the lineup here on the show, and then we wrap it up. I'm Rob. He's Brandon. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. You're listening to the Fan Upstate.
per month. Big Blue may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Blue. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Blue at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898. Did you know Ingles only sells USDA choice and fine cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh from the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, vegan. Not only that, we even cut it to order just for weekly lunch. And fried meat fresh in the store multiple. For the best folks. No prices. The TPI Tool Sale is back this weekend only. Top brand. Savings on power tools, floor care products, and outdoor power equipment. Friday and Saturday 9 to 6, Sunday 10 to 4, while supplies last. Located off exit 27 in Anderson at the intersection of Ryobi and Highway 81.
Sponsored by Jeff Martin Auctioneers. Jeff Martin Auctioneers is back with the Summer East Coast Public Auction on Thursday, June 15th in Pelzer, featuring construction and farm equipment, trucks, trailers, and more. Bid your way live on site or online at jeffmartinauctioneers.com. Experience the difference. License 4283.
The Rob Brown Show continues. It is the Fan Upstate. Brandon filling in for Lonzo. I am Rob Brown. Thank you guys for being with us today. So, there's a big discussion going on right now about the 12-team playoff, and predominantly something happening away from what would happen on the field. And that is gambling. There are some high-level folks, Greg Sankey included, the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, that are very concerned about gambling in college sports. Greg Sankey said, quote, "There must be zero tolerance for activity that puts into question the integrity of competition," end quote. That was last week at the SEC meetings down in Destin. Now, I love the boogeyman that has been created around gambling in college sports. As if March Madness is successful because of great basketball. It's not. March Madness is successful because of office pools, because of gambling, because of people putting $50 into the pot, winner take all for the best bracket, because of bracket competitions. That's why it's so damn popular. So, yes, when the 12-team playoff gets its start at the end of not this season, but next, you're going to have 8 teams, 4 on the bye. You're going to have 4 games. Then you're going to have 4 more games. Then you're going to have 2 games. Then you're going to have a game. And yes, we are all going to be putting our brackets together, just like we do in March. And I got news for you. College football is going to expand to 16 sooner than it doesn't. And then we're really going to have bracket contests. 8th and 4, then 2, then a title game. It's going to be incredible. Now, I would make the argument that there's only one thing that needs to be taken care of here. And it is the same at the collegiate level that it is at the NFL. We found out yesterday that there is an investigation ongoing into the Indianapolis Colts regarding one of their cornerbacks betting on the league. Isaiah Rodgers is a DB and kick returner for the Colts. The team acknowledged yesterday that the NFL had launched an investigation. The Colts put out a statement that said they have no statement, but they are aware of the investigation itself. Rodgers put out a tweet that said, quote, I know I've made mistakes and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to repair the situation. The last thing I ever wanted to do was to be a distraction for the Colts organization, my coaches, and my teammates. I've let people down that I care about. I made an error in judgment, and I'm going to work hard to make sure that these mistakes are rectified through this process. It's an honor to play in the NFL, and I have never taken that lightly. I am very sorry for all of this. And it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, like, you know how big of a deal this is, right? It's like drunk driving. When somebody's like, I made a huge mistake. Yeah, no, but
you knew it.
You knew that when you made it.
Yeah, when you made that decision, you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So you still did it. So I don't feel pity for him for what he did. He knew he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to get caught. He, just like with Calvin Ridley, he knew what the consequences were going to be. He knew about the other players that got suspended for the entire season or have been released from their team. He knows what the consequences are. So I don't feel sorry for him.
It kind of is what it is, right? But the NFL is doing the best thing that the NFL can do, which is we are going to take a no-nonsense approach to this. If we catch you, you're out. 9 games, 12 games a season. We're not going to let this stand. But college basketball has been operating with the postseason gambling gold mine. You know what the 2 highest gambled events are in sports?
I'd probably say March Madness and the Super Bowl.
That's it. You got the order backwards, but the 2 correct. But it's a big difference, but not overwhelming. Last year, according to sources, Americans gambled $16 billion on the Super Bowl. We gambled $15.5 billion on college basketball, on March Madness. Now, I would like to point out that I don't believe those numbers are anywhere near accurate. I believe those are only book numbers. I don't believe they're accurate because I would also like to include how many of you guys have gone to a Super Bowl party and put in $20 to buy 5 squares on the board. I would consider that gambling. How many of you guys have made handshake bets with your buddies about the Super Bowl? I would bet many of you. How many of you guys have thrown $20 into a bracket competition at your office, winner take all? I count that as gambling. I suspect that those numbers are much higher.
There's people who gamble and place bets about the coin toss in the Super Bowl too.
All gambling, right? I would assume that those are probably included in the book tallies that make up that 16 bill, but I would say that number might be, I don't even want to speculate. I'm not an expert, but over 16 and over 15 and a half. The thing is, and this is another one of those times where I'm like, all right, let's like deep dive and really logically, critically think about this. When's the last time you heard Greg Sankey express his concern over gambling in March Madness? I can't think of it, right? So I'm curious as to what we're driving at here. I'm curious as to, like, Sankey came out and gave this speech about zero tolerance and integrity of competition, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just one of those weird things because to me, if somebody with a position in a position of authority gets behind a podium and brings up a topic like this, what it means to me is they believe there is some sort of problem. It might be a minor one, might be a major one, but they believe there is some sort of issue. And ordinarily, when someone in a power position brings up an issue, it is because they want to propose changes or solutions, right? As a politician, as a legislator, you don't typically bang the gavel and get on the mic to complain about something that you don't want to change, right? You might brag about a thing that you don't want to change, but you don't complain. You don't make statements like this about a thing that you do want to change. So I don't really get what the goal is here. I think the college football expanded 12-team playoff is going to be gambled on by Americans just like March Madness. Anytime that you put out a bracket, and let's be honest, Every sports contest is a bracket. Even if it's only 2 teams, there are 2 teams on a bracket. Only one team can emerge in that 2-team tournament as the winner. Anytime you have competition, people are going to gamble on it. That's just how it goes, man. It's just how it goes. So I'm curious as to what the drive is here. Like, why would we bring this up? Why would we make this a topic? Why would we talk about it as if it is an issue? It's not. Now, there is one aspect to this conversation that I could see being the talk, right? Which is, what do we do if we find out that a player was gambling? Can't do that. And I think that's probably one rule that, by and large, we all agree on. We cannot have the athletes or the officials of games gambling on the games, because the temptation there to lay down for a play because the cornerback took the over, so he lets the oppo quarterback hit a touchdown late in the game to cover. Can't have that. I'm fine with that. So there's a fine conversation to be had in terms of what is the punishment. There are already rules in place. The NCAA rules state right now that if players accept or place a bet on any college or professional team other than their own, they will automatically be suspended a minimum of 1 year and charged a season of competition. You give up a year of eligibility if you are got busted betting on your own team. Can't do it, right? Greg Sankey said, when asked if he would further strengthen penalties within the conference itself, said, quote, "When all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail," end quote. Like, what are we driving at here? What is our goal? What is our point? Because if it is to tell people, please don't gamble on this, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. Now, if it's to say we're trying to light up an adequate and appropriate punishment system for players who get caught gambling, there's our conversation. But what are you trying to do here? What's our goal here?
So I'm confused about this too. These players make millions upon millions of dollars, and you're betting what, 50,000, 3,000?
Well, we're talking college right now.
Oh,
right?
still, but
the NFL guys too, right?
Like, why are you betting this money when you have all this money? What is the point?
Listen, I will tell you, gambling's fun. All right. And I'm looked at as a degenerate. I've been called to my face a degenerate over the last year and a half, because on Saturdays from noon to 4, which you can hear on the BetQL network, I host a gambling show alongside Cody Decker, where we talk baseball gambling. Gambling is fun. Gambling makes sports more fun. Now, I absolutely push responsible gambling. Your boy, when he gambles, as big of a game as I talk, when Rob Brown drops bets on baseball games during the weekend, they're like $5, right? They're like $5. I might throw down, like this past weekend, Cody and I built our parlay and our Parlay v Parlay challenge, which worked out at 10-1, right? 10-1. You know what I put on that parlay? I put $4 down on that parlay. I made $40, right? But the ninth inning of that game, where I was sweating out a straight money line win because both of my player props hit in the 8th, and all I needed was a money line win for that 10-1, it was for $4. But when that 40 showed up in my account, booyah! Let's go. Gambling's fun.
Full tank of gas right there.
That's it. Gambling is fun. Do it responsibly. Do it carefully. Never wager more than you're prepared to lose. Yada, yada, yada. Gambling's fun. All right? So I get why players want to do it. Now, I don't get why they gamble on their own team. Well, that's not even true. I do. If you really believe your team's going to win this weekend, like, cool, I'll make us some cheddar. No problem with that. But the leagues have got to crack down on it. You just can't have it, man. Can't have it. And so if we're going to have the discussion about what the punishments look like if someone does, I'm good with that. Real quick, I've had this article up for a couple of days, and we'll get the chance to get to it here. Speaking of gambling, since we're on it right now, according to the Associated Press, 5 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court cleared the way for all 50 states to, should they elect to, make sports gambling legal. The Fed said everybody's allowed to do it if the states give you the thumbs up. A lot of states have. Not all of them have, but a lot of states have. Since that time 5 years ago, according to Wayne Perry of the Associated Press, Americans have bet over $220 billion on sports with legal gambling outlets in those 5 years. $220 billion. But that number, as I said in the last chunk of the segment, is likely low. It's likely low. DraftKings CEO Jason Robbins told Wayne Perry of the AP that, quote, while the milestones of legalized sports betting that have led up till now are remarkable, this industry is excitingly still far from being fully realized. Legal betting is already part of the mainstream sports culture, and I anticipate this trend will grow as adoption increases. The accessibility right now for fans to place a live micro bet during a game, for example, shares parallels with other smartphone-powered capabilities like hailing a ride, buying stock, or playing podcasts. End quote. It is so easy in sports or in states that it's legal to place a bet, right? You can't bet in South Carolina. You got to know somebody, okay? But you can play pick'em contest. One of my favorites on Underdog. I use Underdog right now. And basically they have, because it is considered a game of skill, they have where you can build 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus leg parlay. Every pick you get, you go up like 10 times payout, whatever. And so, for instance, tomorrow night in the NBA game, they'll give me options for Nikola Jokic over-under points, assist, and rebounds combined, Jamal Murray points, Jamal Murray fantasy points, and you can pick higher, lower, whatever. And I think it's great. It makes everything so much fun. On Saturday. On Saturday, I had like a 7-leg parlay built that came down to the last one to hit or miss, and it missed. But, dude, I was invested in like 7 different Major League Baseball games that I otherwise wouldn't have been outside of my job because of that. $220 billion, I suspect, is a low number. Because I'm under the impression, I can't state it for a fact, but I'm under the impression that those are book bets, right? Those are through apps, casinos, yada, yada, yada. That does not include, not that any of us know anybody who would do this, but the dude who has an old school bookie, right? The dude that you Venmo a hundo to and have him place a bet for you, and then he sends you the winnings with a cutout. Those guys aren't reporting. They're not registering, right? They're just doing that as a service. I would bet you that number is probably closer to 3, which is an insane amount of money.
Maybe the 5s.
Possible. Very, 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 very possible. Point is, gambling is a mainstay. You don't have to like it, but it is here. The only question Greg Sankey needs to be asking is, what do we do to make the punishment severe enough that college kids don't gamble on their own teams or the playoffs? You guys can gamble baseball all you want. You can gamble the NFL all you want, but do not place games on college bets. And if we find out you do, then blank will happen. That's the only you don't need to worry about everybody else for any other reason. You just need to figure out, how do we punish players who do it? How do we punish people who approach players to do it? Figure that out. Everything else is gravy. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap this show up. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. What's up, buddy? Welcome in. Marcus, good to have you. Oh, come on. Uncle, come on, huh?
What's up, Jacob? Thanks for watching, bud.
Oral Roberts. Duke battles Virginia. South Carolina against Florida. The winners advance to Omaha in the College World Series. That starts Friday at June. Listen anywhere on your phone. Sanders with the sports flash on the Fan Upstate.
He just said rocking that pink polo.
Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Smart.
From the free CBS Sports Radio.
I'm Bridget Condon with Edible Network Now and Westwood One Radio Network. President Joe Biden invited the Kansas City Chiefs to the White House.
Mahomes. Travis Kelce stepped up to the Joe Biden's podium and was going to give a speech behind it. He was like, I've been waiting for this for a long time. And Mahomes ran up and grabbed him and shoved him away from it. He was like, nope, not doing that.
At Granger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping
So
business.
Thursday you're gonna be on live.
We're the same way.
Probably. That's the goal.
So whatever you're doing,
Just let me know.
you're always getting professional grade products. Call clickgranger.com or just
But there's a weird way we have to set up the stream, and I don't remember if I remember how to do it. So we'll see.
Filet mignon.
Go to omahasteaks.com. Use code SIZZLE at checkout for $30 off. That's omahasteaks.com. Code SIZZLE at checkout. No orders required. See site for details. Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs, ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe. Fix some seats so every fan can enjoy every game. And Allie, who keeps her stadium running smoothly from the moment the first game starts to the last play of the season. At Granger, you're our MVPs, and we're always here for you. With supplies and solutions for every industry, 24/7 customer support. Call clickgranger.com or just stop on. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, this is Keenan Thompson. I have a problem with you. Yes, you. None of y'all told me that Auto Trader has millions of new and used cars that I can shop from home. I thought we were friends. I put smiles on your face, but I'm not smiling. No one told me that with Auto Trader, a dealer can deliver cars to my home, or that I can shop by price on Auto Trader. Consider this friendship that you just Bali is easy. Auto Trader, you know.
Or you can just use ZipRecruiter, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs for them.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Now try ZipRecruiter free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/FREE.
Off clean feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel.
All right.
Johnson.
This afternoon, partly
Let's
sunny,
get it.
possible thunderstorms, high at 87.
Weather brought to you by Staples. Staples stores are a new world of possible, innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, wrapping up this edition of the Rob Brown Show. 844-326-3663. If you want to slide in here before we call it a day, you can also tweet us at the Rob Brown Show, at the Fan Upstate, or text us 71307
You talk, right?
Sometimes, not often. I got a number. We're going to dive deeper tomorrow into the NBA Finals Game 3 back down at Miami, but I was listening yesterday to Michael Malone, head coach of the Nuggets, get into why he did not call a timeout at the end of that game when the Nuggets had the ball about 8 seconds and a chance to knock down a three that would have tied the game and sent it to OT. And I actually, a lot of people have taken some issue with what Michael Malone had to say. He said, my guys play well in a rhythm, right? Said if I'd have called a timeout, they would have got to reset their defense. They would have got to analyze what it was going to look like. They would have got to set it up the way they wanted to. Instead, I decided, hey, I'm going to trust Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to go down there and get the best shot possible. And they did, I think, honestly. The shot Jamal Murray put up was not a bad one. He was stepping away, but that's a shot we've seen him make 100 times. I don't really have an issue with that. I don't know why people are upset about Michael Malone. Jokic and Murray are two of the better basketball players on that floor. Miami was caught in a weird spot. They probably did not have the 3D lineup that they would have wanted in there to try to stop Denver from getting off an uncontested long shot. I thought it was fine. What I do think is the primary reason, everybody's panicked, the primary reason that Denver's still going to win this series, right? Like, I'm not backing off of that. Yeah, it's 1-1. Yeah, Miami's got home court in the best of 5. But the reason I think Denver wins this series is very simple. Number one, the Miami Heat are not going 17 of 35 from behind the arc every game. That was a blistering pace and one that's impossible to keep up. Number two, they had to rely on everybody in this game. Gabe Vincent was big. Duncan Robinson was big. Max Strus was good. Caleb Martin was good. They had to rely on everybody. Those are 4 undrafted players. I don't think that they can rely on all of those undrafted players to carry that much weight through the rest of the series. Denver did Denver. Miami just outdid Miami. Denver's not going to stop doing Denver. I don't think Miami can rise to that height game after game, but we'll see. That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for listening to the show. Hope you enjoyed it. We will be back tomorrow to do it all over again, but better. On Thursday, we will be live from the B&W Pro-Am out at Thornblade Country Club. Come see us. I'm out Friday. Carlos with a K will be here. For Brandon, for Lonzo, for everybody here at the Fan Upstate, thank you guys for being a part of the show. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. All right, guys, I've got to run out of here quick today because I got a few things I got to take care of. Liberty game tonight. I will be on the call again. You can watch that at 11sports.com. If you want to watch a little football this evening, everybody else, will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great day. Goodbye.